Hi everybody, I hope this video finds you in good health and spirits. Today I'm going to talk to you about why we believe the science of economics needs a foundation and a fundamental overhaul. I've written extensively about anthropological economics. I have published up to 210 long paper or so approximately on anthropological economics. It was published in Education Statistics Journal of Social Sciences in the year 2020. I've also published another paper this year on cultural limit and anthropological limit, and I also wrote about the need to uh, measure economic performance against cultural limits and anthropological limits. I've also spoken about long-term factors, short-term factors, medium-term factors. I've also written about controllable factors, partly controllable factors, and non-controllable factors. Now, before we proceed to this video, the entire, what is say, for a, for, we recapitulate the entire gamut of this video. What exactly is economics? Economics is one of the oldest fields of study, and it is one of the most important fields of study in the social sciences. As a matter of fact, many regard and consider this to be a queen of the social sciences. After this come anthropology, sociology, and historiography. Okay, economic problems of survival and problems of economic growth, prosperity, production, exchange, consumption, distribution of goods and services, and all the allied concepts with regard to economic activity have preoccupied humans since time immemorial. This has been true for the past several thousands of years, whether it may have been formalized or not. Okay, the American historian of economic thought, Robert Heilbronner, described economics as a worldly philosophy because it is concerned with matters on a material, how our material wants are best served with limited resources. One of the important concept of economics has been the idea of insatiable and unlimited wants with counterbalanced against limited resources. Okay, resources are limited. This must also be borne in mind at all times. Okay, and even with our renewable movement and renewable energy movement, resources will continue to be um, scarce and in short supply. We are also reducing our birth rates gradually, but I believe strongly that birth rates must follow even further. There has been a dangerous right-wing led third of pronatalism in some Western countries where birth rates are already very low. These are being copy pasted into India in Indian context. I call this copy paste scholarship, which is very bad concept. Okay, I have termed this copy paste scholarship. This is extremely dangerous. And economics also deals with sciences with the functioning and working and origin and interoperation of different facets of an economy. Therefore, we have two fundamental fields. One is known as microeconomics, one is macroeconomics. Microeconomics deals with individuals, and macroeconomics deals with economic systems, large or small. Okay, and it also studies the behavior and functioning of economic agents and actors and how they function in diverse situations. The science of economics, whether formally studied or not, is extremely wide-ranging and pervasive, invasive also. It pervades and percolates into every activity and sphere and domain of human activity. Okay, many different definitions have been provided for economics. For example, John Stuart Mills has come up with a solution. Alfred Marshall has come up with the definition, and some people like Lionel Robbins also have come up with scarcity based definitions. Okay, and it is therefore known as the science of constraint choice. Okay, I will not go into depth into all the definitions. I don't want to repeat them in a parrot like for fashion. I request you to read my books, and I have also come up with a blog. It's my blog post on this anthropological economics, why it needs to be brought in line with our recommendations. Okay, if you see the history of economic thought in ancient Greece, the polymath Hesiod, who was a contemporary of Homer, wrote about early origins of economic thought in the 7th century BC. The Greek philosopher Aristotle also economics examined ideas about wealth acquisition and discussed whether property was left in private hands or whether need to be brought in to the public domain and sphere. Similarly, Xenophon of Athens also authored the work O Economics in the 4th century BC, and this was an important treatise on household management and agriculture. Likewise, Plato's famous work discussed forms of money, specialization of labor, production, and he also developed a credit theory of money. In ancient China, Fan Li, who was an advisor to King Wujian of Yu or 5th century BC, who wrote on economic issues and developed a set of golden business rules. In ancient China, Chanakya, who lived during the period of the Mauryan Empire, authored the famous treatise Arthashastra, which dealt with statecraft, economic policy, and military strategy. Okay. Similarly, This work, which was compiled between 300 BC and 200 CE, stated the four important fields of knowledge, namely the Vedas, Anvishiki, the science of inquiry, the science of government, and the science of economics, which included dealing in cattle business and trade. Okay, similarly, in the Middle East also there were some great economic thinkers. For example, in the 14th century, we had the Islamic writer Ibn Khaldun, who was another important intellectual. He developed theories on the life cycle of civilization, specialized of labor, and the value of money, etc. Okay, and he also come up with several concepts in anthropological economics. For example, we have written about the fugoid cycle also. That is also extremely important. I request people to read it. Just a second. And in the Western world, economics was not considered to be a separate field of study, but it was initially considered to be part of philosophy until the Industrial Revolution, which accelerated economic growth in the Western world and eclipsed development elsewhere. Okay, in early in the medieval Europe, soon after medieval Europe, the philosophy of mercantilism dominated European economic thought from 16th to the 18th century, as Europe emerged from feudalism in the Dark Ages. Okay, and therefore there was proto-industrialization, which led to full-blown and full-fledged industrialization during the peace course of the Industrial Revolution in the 17th and 18th centuries after Christ. Okay, and after the voyage of Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand Magellan, James Cook, Balbo, and other people, there were a lot of new opportunities for trades because Western civilization began to flourish and thrive and prosper and began to conquer and spread its wings to the. But of course, people in North America and others were brutally suppressed. So, mercantilism as a movement advocated the use of states' powers to protect local market and supply sources from imports and exports and one-way trade were boosted. Therefore, it was extremely parochial, narrow, and it was also parochial. It was nationalistic in its approach. Okay, the entire requirements of the global economy was never addressed. So, it may have involved to some extent imposition of Western-centric ideas and ideals on other parts of the world. Okay. Similarly, Jean-Baptiste Colbert and others believe that international trades would not benefit all countries equally. Some it would be lopsided, and some countries would take off faster than other people, other countries did. And according to them, money and precious materials are the chief source of wealth, and therefore tariffs and barriers, trade barriers, were necessary to create a balance of imports, and balance of trade had to be maintained, and the imports discouraged at all costs. And Nehru also believed in this type of philosophy. We had the doctrine of economic autarky. Okay, this called for import substitution. We did promote import substitution for several decades, but it came with heavy economic repercussions because it led to shoddy goods because countries were shielded from imports. Okay, and the term was mercantilism was not coined until 1760 by Victor. By it was coined by Victor de Ricotti, Marquis de Mirabeau, and popularized by Adam Smith, etc. Therefore, if you see the drawbacks of current approaches to economics, they do not take into account social aspects, cultural aspects, motivational aspects. They pursue a money-centric approach, Western-centric approach, do not discuss factors such as sustainability, rely heavily on trickle-down models as opposed to bottom-up models of Keynesian economics. They do not include and discuss um, uh, uh, welfare and economics adequately. In a paper on anthropological economics, which we published in 2020, we had discussed the interface between anthropology and economics, overviewed economic anthropology, established a connection between anthropology and public policy, reviewed cultural economics, cultural finance, economic sociology, Marxist sociology, development anthropology, the anthropology of development, economic growth versus economic development, developmental economics, welfare economics, behavioral economics, the psychology of economic developments, value judgments in economics, etc. And in this paper, we have also come up with new concepts as an economic activity, economic as factors, cultural goods, non-cultural goods, anthropological goods, socio-cultural groups, socio-economic groups, occupational groups, creative classes, intellectual classes, entrepreneurial classes, human capital, cultural capital, social capital, etc. Okay, and so I do request you to go through this, and this paper is an essential intrinsic part of a globalization of science movement because economic theory has been rooted in I mean, very narrow set of thinking, ivory tower approaches and it arcane approaches, esoteric approaches. There is no use in economic theory if it doesn't serve the needs of masses very well or society very well. It has to happen. And while in Asians have been making impressive and stellar contributions to science in the recent couple of details, but social sciences is still steeped in very obsolete and arcane concepts. Okay, I will not deal with all the concepts which I have dealt with discussed in my papers because this video is intended to be very short one. It is just like an introductory video because you will need to read my book. There is no two ways about it. Okay, economics is also sometimes seen as a positive science. It describes what is as opposed to a normative science, and it is what ought to be. Okay, it's also generally seen as a neutral to ethics and outcomes. Okay, therefore we do have economic ethics, but it's generally seen as subsidiary. Okay, and we have also concepts such as economic activities, the activity of making, purchasing or selling goods or services. Economic act, a person who uses land, labor, or capital to shape an economy. We also have culture goods, which are culture goods are all goods which are for or intrinsic to the culture, for which there are easy which there are no easy substitutes. For example, in South Indians we eat rice, North Indians we eat wheat, Italians we eat pasta and all. We also have subsistence goods. I have discussed about this elasticity of demand, inverse elasticity of demand, etc. We have subsistence goods which are necessary for subsistence. We also have luxury goods. Okay, as the income grows up, luxury goods consumption also goes up, whereas subsistence goods generally goes down. As we also have concept of inferior goods, okay, and neutral goods, etc. We also have anthropological goods, which play a crucial role in the advancement of human civilization in some way. We also have concepts of socio-cultural groups, socio-economic groups, occupational groups within socio-economic groups. We also have concepts of creative classes, intellectual classes, and I have discussed these uh, at a great length of the level of depth. And all these concepts are necessary for us to understand the concepts of uh, anthropological economics. I have also spoken about entrepreneurial classes to create jobs for other people. I have also spoken about the importance of human capital, and I have also discussed the requirements of cultural capital, social capital. I have also discussed concept of Human Development Index, which was proposed by Amartya Sen and the Pakistani economics, Mahbubul Haq. Okay, other people like Paul Streeton, Francis Stewart, Meghnad Desai, Sudhir Anand, Gustav Ranis, and Keith Griffin also were involved. I have also provided a definition of poverty. Okay, and what poverty is? Poverty is defined based on minimum income. It is defined based on based on income distribution, and people also have deprivation because there is caused by unemployment, poor housing, poor health, inadequate education, or inadequate sanitation, etc. I have also discussed the concept of absolute poverty, relative poverty, primary poverty, secondary poverty, objective and subjective perspectives of poverty, psychological and sociological deprivation, situational general poverty, poverty due to direct and indirect factors, endemic poverty, malnutrition, and I've also explored the linkages between poverty and unemployment. Poverty and underemployment, these two are different things. And I've also discussed the relationship between poverty and seasonal and temporary employment, and poverty and chronic employment. I've also dealt about unequal distribution of income, assets, and wealth. This can happen due to lopsided growth, absence of rural infrastructure, differential regional growth. People lack employable skills to take advantage of economic opportunities, law of inheritance and transmission of property, landlord zamindari system, oppression of women, low spending on social security, lack of scientific design on social security systems, unequal distribution, and presence of landless labors, unscientific taxation structure, and absence of wealth structure. Also, read my book. I published an ebook on Google Books, which deals with the opposite economic development model in India. We need uh, what do you say? We need bottom-up, trickle-up development models. This is extremely important, rather than relying on trickle-down growth. Okay. I've also spoken about different approaches to wealth distribution. Okay, graphically, it was represented by the Lorentz curve, which was developed by the American economics Max O. Lorentz in 1905. I've also spoken about the Gini coefficient. Okay, and I have also spoken about the culture of poverty. This is a very important concept. It was developed by Oscar Lewis in the study of Mexican families in 1959. He was an anthropologist. People, values, and cultures are not geared to creation of wealth because they are trapped in the vicious cycle of poverty. I have discussed this concept also in a great level of depth. Okay, please read my book in its entirety. And one more important recommendation and conclusion I made is ethnography. Ethnography means participation in field work. It has been applied in an anthropological and sociological settings. Okay. For example, we had Bronislaw Molinaski, A.R. Radcliffe Brown, etc., Edmund Leach, etc. In Myanmar, India, and other parts of the world, the developing world, or alien world as they saw it. They spent anthropologists spent a lot of time studying primitive people or what they consider to be primitive or barbaric people. Our ethnography, we believed, has not been applied in economic context. It has a lot of potential value. It can be applied. Okay, and I have called this econoethnography. Okay, so this can be applied in the field of economics to study requirements pertaining to economics and economic outcomes. It can be put to judicious effect. It can be put to productive, wide-ranging product effect, and this can be used to study specific aspects of economic culture with view to understanding their impact on social and economic development, include the study of its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities of and threats besides salient features, proclivities, etc. Study of culture in general with view to of understanding its impact on social and economic development, and study of some aspects of an economy, some aspects of economic systems, comprehensive study of a region's economy. This may include study of its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, etc., besides its salient features, etc. Comprehensive study of a region's economy in relation to a wider global context also must be studied. And I have proposed concepts such as macroeconoethnography, microethnography, functional econoethnography, studies only one or more economic functions of a culture. Life cycle econoethnography follows the human life cycle approaches and traces human activities from the cradle to the grave. Extrapolated econoethnography, which extrapolates influences about a culture, etc. Okay, and in addition, I have also traced and discussed some traditional methods that are used in economics, such as introspective methods and investigative methods. Okay, and this can also we also have ability to combine research in economics with randomized control trials, etc. Here you have placebo, and you also have a quasi experimental study or experimental study. These both are different. Full research uses experimental studies. You have control and experimental groups also. Please read this on the internet. You also have case study method, which can be used in economics. You also have concept of thematic approaches, which are not widely used in economics. It can be. We also have economic transaction modeling, studying all aspects of transaction. Economic transaction storyboards. This can also be used, and we also have study of economic culture, and cultural taxonomy driven approaches are also possible, and other approaches that can be used in anthropological economics. These are extrapolated again from sociology and anthropology. These include action anthropology, participatory approaches. I have discussed this, and I have also told you about the Foucault cycle. We have capacity development, life cycles, application of historical methods, grounded theory. Okay, which means that here it needs to be data needs to be based on raw the grounds of data, and we also have concepts such as inductive approaches and deductive approaches. Even though inductive approaches are time consuming, we recommend inductive approaches because they are very useful in generating data-based hypotheses. We also have phenomenology and how people look at themselves from their own perspective. And we also have concepts of building economic models. This is known as economic modeling. And we must have these economic models must have parsimony, tractability, generalizability, falsifiability, empirical consistency, and predictive precision. And I have also spoken in my book about anthropological limits and cultural limits. Cultural limit means a culture has its own limits which may change over a period. As cultures become more efficient, they may increase. And I've also spoken about anthropological limits, okay, because people won't work 24 hours a day. It's against human nature. And I have also spoken about anthropological and cultural equilibrium where external harmony is attained and accomplished. Okay. My work is also supposed to be integrated. Many of my other papers, I have published around 73 papers in 8 books on aspects such as language dynamics, practicalism, pragmatism. These are very important. There is no point in having economic theory if it doesn't lead to better social, cultural, and economic outcomes. Okay, economic theory needs to make life better for our citizens, otherwise, it's a sheer waste of time. Okay, I do request you to bear all these in mind, and this is just introductory. I will need you to read my papers also, and if you agree with them or do not agree with them, do let me know and let me know how it can be improved or, most importantly, extended in new and creative, innovative directions. That's extremely important. Thank you very much again. Bye.